Now we want to get into 2018 and what's to come. We're really excited, as Sandy mentioned in the introduction. We're really, really excited. We had a great 2016-17 season, and we're even more excited for the 2017-18 season. Got a lot of new teams that we'll be talking about. We have D1, D2, and D3 alignment, and it probably should have deleted the word possible, because we did have our realignment meetings, and we're pretty locked up as far as realignment goes, and it's pretty much done. We'll be talking about Division 3, which we're really, really excited about, and you should too. And then we'll also have Sandy come back up and talk about the Rules Committee and the new rule changes that were put into place for this upcoming season. So that'll be an important section of the presentation to listen to, because that section will talk about the new rules being put in place. Now, as far as new teams go, we have 17. Actually, it should be 18 new teams officially signed for the 2017-18 season. Like we talked about earlier, the University of New Hampshire, that puts us into another state. We're really excited to have them on board. I also touched on Rhode Island. They had such a successful first year in our organization that they're having a Division II team and a Division III team. Mississippi State, another big-name school that we've been trying to get in the league for a very long time. Alex did a great job getting them on board, so we're really, really excited about that. 18, because Seton Hall actually just a few hours ago officially signed with us. So this new team that has verbally committed, Seton Hall University, is actually an official NCBA team. So we're really excited to have them on board as well. There's also 18 teams that have expressed interest, and what that means is they're talking with Alex Kane, the director of team development, about how to join the league, budgeting, what they basically need to do to become an officially recognized club sport, and are really interested in joining the league. Out of these 18 teams, I don't know what the percentage is, but not all of these teams will join for this upcoming season. But we hope that the majority will. And there's always teams that come, what we say, out of the woodwork later in the season that want to get on board. So we have 18 already in the league. I think we're well ahead of our pace that we were last year. 18 teams expressed interest, so we're really, really excited about the growth. And our goal is to get around that 330 team mark for the 2017-2018 season. Now, this is the exciting stuff, D1 realignment. This is what the conferences look like for this 2017-18 season. Division 1, the website is completely up to date. I don't know if the Division 2 website's up to date with the realignment, but if you have any questions about your conference, if anything changed, you can go to the website and check that out. But here's the things that we did as far as D1 goes this year. Ferris State University was a Great Lakes North team. We moved them down to Division II, which opened up a spot, obviously, in the Great Lakes North. And the University of Windsor, who's been an extremely successful program at the Division II level, has taken their place in the Great Lakes North. So we're really, really excited about the University of Windsor in Division I. They're very excited about it, so it's just a win-win for everybody. A lot of moves happened in the North Atlantic region, which is the region that I specifically oversee, and I'm really excited about it. We moved Boston University out of the North Atlantic North, which opened up a spot, obviously. Sacred Heart moved into their spot. They've always been they used to be in the North Atlantic North. We moved them to the east. They've always been trying to get back to the north, so we were able to grant them that request and get them back into the north with a vacancy of Boston University moving out of the North Atlantic North. Loyola University, Maryland is a team that took Sacred Heart's spot in the North Atlantic East. They've always been a team chomping at the bit to get into Division I. We never had the room for them. Things opened up. We asked them if they wanted to move up to Division I. They weren't an automatic call-up, but they are a team that is very successful at the D2 level, and they just jumped at the opportunity and now in Division I, and we're really, really excited about them. And then, last but not least, we moved SUNY Cortland down to Division II, which obviously opened up a spot in the North Atlantic West. and the Division II national champions, Slippery Rock University, are now in the North Atlantic West, which we're thrilled about having them. A very good program, local program here close to Pittsburgh. So we're really proud of their accomplishments and really excited to see how they do at the Division I level, competing with the guys in the North Atlantic West. This is a possibility. This is one of the things that are still up in the air. Latter-day Saints Business College, moving them right into Division I, into the Northern Pacific South Conference. They're a team located in Salt Lake City. So it's just a matter of if we have room for them. We're still waiting on a few LPAs from teams out in the NOPAC. So that's going to depend on if we can get Latter-day Saints Business College into the NCBA this first year. We did remove Florida International University out of the South Atlantic South Conference, and we're also able to replace them with Florida Gulf Coast, who is an automatic call-up team. They've been very successful at the Division II level, made the Division II World Series this past year, had a great run there. So we're really excited to see what they do in the South Atlantic South. And then last but not least, we moved Stanford University out of the SOPAC North and down to Division II. And Chico State, who's a fairly new program, they are taking Stanford's spot. We're really excited about Chico State. They're very much like Loyola Maryland, always chomping at the bit to get into the Division I league. And we asked them to, if they wanted to jump up to D1, and just like Loyola Maryland, they jumped at that opportunity. So really excited about having them there as well. Division II realignment. I don't know, Eric, is the website up to date? Is not up to date yet. It will be shortly. But internally, we have the breakdown of the realignment, how everything works. And I touched on it earlier, that we are excited that all 8 districts are going to be 3 conferences. So all 8 districts are going to have that opportunity at an at-large bid, which is really, really exciting. It's something that we shoot for. All these conferences, they're ranging from 4 to 6 teams each. With Division III opening up, we were able to take 15 to 20 previous D2 teams and move them down to Division III. And again, what that did, we were oversaturated with teams at the D2 level. Now we were able to take some D2 teams and move them down to Division III, and that opened up space. It made D2 much more competitive, and we're really excited about that. We're also excited about having these teams down in Division III to get their organization under control and be competitive, and hopefully move back up to Division II or Division I in the near future. And as we also touched on earlier, all the districts that were, District 1, 2, 3, and so on, those are now going to become specific region names. If you have any cool ones, I know Eric is looking for some cool names on the Facebook group page. So be sure to give him some ideas, because it could be we can have a lot of fun with it. So look out for those coming out, hopefully mid-September. Dun dun dun. Division III. That was a terrible drum roll. Division III. We're excited. We're launching Division III for the 2017-2018 season. Oh, we have our first question. Just got nervous.
Reed Star.
Loyola Maryland.
Oh, Loyola Maryland. Okay.
I know.
Does D1 have at-large bids for playoffs?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. All Division I, all 8 regions. There are 3 conferences. Regional tournaments are 4 teams, so each conference winner gets an automatic bid, but we'll be looking at all the second-place teams that finish in all Division I region conferences and picking the best at-large bid that we feel is deserving of it. So, yes, Reed, you will have, in the North Atlantic, there will be an at-large selection. But very good question. Back to Division III. We're really, really, really excited about it. We were hoping to launch it last year, just weren't able to do it. We are launching it, obviously, this year. We just named Alex Kane the Director of Division III Operations, I think a month or so ago. We're really excited to see what he's able to do with the Division III League, so he's going to do a great job out there. We do have the Division III rule book It's not online yet. We will be releasing that in conjunction with the Division I and Division II rule books, which we hope to have out within the next week or so. Now they're flooding in. Another question.
Jake Brogdon, Wofford College. Will D3 have district playoffs, and if so, will they be similar to Division II?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We hope so. We definitely hope so. We'll be talking in maybe a slide about Division III realignment. We're still in the beginning stages. We're still collecting LPAs, but we are hopeful that we'll be able to split. There's going to be 4 districts in Division III, and we're hopeful that we're able to get enough teams down there that we're going to be able to split each district into 2 conferences, which will be the top 2 conference winners will play, I believe, in a best of 3. That's what we're hoping for. That's not final, but there will be playoffs for the Division III teams, and the winners of those, if you want to call them regional tournaments, will move on to the World Series, which we'll discuss later. But very good question. Where do we leave off? New teams from the 2017-18 season will be put in Division III. So unless, like Mississippi State's a team that we don't really have room for in the Division III league, or not room for, but they're just not close to any other teams. They may be a team that moves right into Division I. But the majority of brand new teams that join the NCBA will be automatically put into Division III, no matter the size of the school. They will automatically put into Division III. And I think we kind of just touched on this a little bit, but Division III will have 4 districts, with some of the districts having district playoffs, hopefully all of them. The Division III World Series will feature 4 teams that will compete in a double elimination tournament. And what we're hopeful with this Division III league is it's only going to strengthen the Division II and the Division I league. So as the Division III continues to expand, again, we are in our infancy stages. This is our first year. But as we continue to grow, it's only going to make the league overall better and a better experience for the teams. So we're really, really excited about it. Now, as far as the Division III staff, you see a lot of Alex Kane on that slide. Alex is currently looking for volunteers to run these districts. And as I talked about, we're looking for a Mid-America regional director in Division I. We are looking for district coordinators to run districts 1 through 4 at the Division III level. So if that is something that you're interested in, I know Alex has a couple candidates already he's speaking with. But if that is something that you're interested in, something that you want to stay involved with the NCBA, you want to put something on your resume, this is a perfect way to do it, perfect way to stay involved with club baseball. So if that is something that you're interested in, please reach out to Alex. And we would love to have you as a volunteer district coordinator in the Division III league. Now here we go, the Division III district realignment. We're pretty solid at D1 and D2 as far as realignment goes, knowing exactly what's happening. The Division III league, we're still in the infancy stages of that. We have a question.
Nolan Rodman, University of Toledo. Can current players serve as district coordinators?
We're open to it. We've done that in the past, and there's, if you want to call it, a conflict of interest in some cases. That it wasn't a great seamless process, or it wasn't seamless for the regional director and the teams. Again, there was sometimes conflict of interest. So it's something, if you're interested in it, please reach out to Alex or myself. We'd definitely love to consider it and look into it, but it's hard to give an answer on that. Now, as far as Division III district realignment, again, we're in the infancy stages. All these teams listed are teams that have LPAs in. They are definitely going to be in these districts. But we have a lot more other teams that we're still waiting on their LPAs that are going to be going into these districts. So like District 1 has 5 teams. It's going to be many more than just 5 teams. We're hopeful that we're going to be able to split the District 1 into a North and South division, which will give regional or district playoff for those teams, and the winner moving on to the World Series. District 2 District 3 and District 4. Same thing. We have many more teams hopefully going into those districts, hopefully being able to split those into 2 divisions. But some nice names on there, some teams like the University of Richmond that used to be a member of our university that now came back. Really excited to have them back on board. You see University of Toledo, we just heard from Nolan. They had such a successful season that they have a Division II and Division III team now. So really excited about Division III. The realignment meeting was a lot of fun. So all in all, we're just thrilled with this league, and I hope everybody that's watching is excited for Division III because it's going to do great things for the overall NCBA and for your experience in the league. Now I'm going to take a little bit of a break, and I'm going to reintroduce the president of the NCBA, Commissioner Sandy Sanderson. He's going to talk about the NCBA Rules Committee that we just had this past July, and the new rules that he's going to touch on a few rules, important rules that we put into place for this upcoming 17-18 season. So, Sandy?
Thank you, Christian. And I happen to be following on Facebook, seeing some of the proposed new names for the D2 districts, and there's some good ones out there. I got to admit, I'm a big fan of the Chesapeake region. So, anyway, I think that's pretty solid. So, good work, people. Keep coming up with the ideas for us. Getting into the Rules Committee meeting from for this year. The Rules Committee is made up of 11 members. Myself, president of the league. There's a Division I teams rep, Matt Reidner, from Eastern Kentucky. He was elected by the D1 teams to represent them at this meeting. Chad Lowe from Ohio State represents the D2 teams, again an elected position. And then the 8 regional directors in Division I make up the rest of the field for the meeting. And as Christian mentioned earlier, Matt's spot as a D1 elected rep is up for re-election, so that'll be coming out this fall in terms of those who are interested in running for that election. The committee met on July 15th to discuss, debate, vote, and establish the rule changes for this 17-18 season coming up. The way the process worked throughout the year is conference coordinators and the rules reps collected rule change proposals throughout the year. It might have been September, it might have been the week before the meeting. Teams were constantly giving feedback as to, hey, I'd like to see this change, I'd like to see that change, here's why. And those folks were gathering all that information, putting it together, getting it organized, and presenting it at this meeting. And everything that was proposed was discussed. Absolutely if you're a team whether you're from Utah or Virginia, if you proposed a rule to the Rules Committee reps or the D1 regional directors, it was brought up at this meeting and discussed. It may not have been voted upon. Now, a reason a proposed rule change doesn't get voted upon is not a single person in the room supported enough to send it to vote. But everything was discussed. Now, Christian's put together on these slides all the rule changes that were approved for this coming season moving forward. I'm just going to pick out a few that I thought were of a special noteworthiness to discuss here today. The first one being interleague games between schools that have 2 teams. For example, Ohio State, Penn State, Illinois, Maryland. There's a number of others nowadays. So many now that I'm having trouble keeping track of schools that have Division I and Division II teams. For years, there's been proposals that, hey, they should be allowed to play. Ohio State D1 can play Ohio State D2 and count the games. The Rules Committee did not allow that because they felt that there was a conflict of interest there in terms of the competition value of the games. Well, it has been passed that they can now play one game against each other and count it during the regular season, just one. And at the D1 level, where we have a requirement as to how many non-conference games you play to be eligible for the postseason, that game amongst your own school's D2 team does not count to fulfill that non-conference game requirement. That was a big rule change. It's been lobbied for the last couple years, and finally got some headway there in terms of bringing that to fruition and making that opportunity available to teams that have multiple programs. A unique rule that was put into place in 17 years. I think we've only had this incident happen once, and it happened this year, where a game was decided. It was rained out. A team was at the end of 6 innings. One team A was winning badly. However, in the middle of the 6th inning, the visiting team came back, tied the game, and then the game got washed out by rain. By rule, the score goes back to the last completed full inning, which put the home team as victors, despite the fact the visiting team came up in their top half of the inning and was able to tie it up. So we had a rule in place that accounted for that. It had never happened in 17 years. It happened this year. So we now have a little bit of adjustment to the rule in place where a halted game rule is in place in that situation, where if the visiting team were to come from behind, and then the game gets washed out, the halted game rule goes into effect, which means the game is stopped, where is halted where the game was stopped by weather, and picked up and finished at a later date, provided that later date falls within the weekend of the series it's being played. So if that game were to get washed out on a Saturday, if the game can be picked up and finished on Sunday, it can be the halted game rule can go into effect. That game can be finished. If the whole weekend's washed out and the game can't be continued that weekend, then the original rule goes back into place. It regresses to the last completed full inning, and that determines the score of the game. A unique rule that was put into place. Maybe I'm not hitting the slides enough to keep up, but we put a cap on the number of non-rostered personnel allowed in the dugout during games. We've seen this in several instances where there's a lot of people in the dugout that don't necessarily belong there, whether they're not on the team, they're not on the roster, they're not players. So it's been capped at 4. Each team gets to decide who those non-rostered players are, whether they're coaches, trainers, managers, official scorers. You get 4. So use them wisely. Now a player coach is on the roster, so that player coach does not count against one of the 4. So you can still have someone's girlfriend keeping the book as a team manager. You could have a trainer. You could have a hitting coach and a fielding coach, and there's your 4 non-rostered dugout personnel that are allowed in the dugout. A violation of this results in the head coach automatically being ejected from the game. Another rule change at the Division II level was the installation of courtesy runners. I believe we had that many, many years ago. We've now brought it back for the catcher only. So at the D2 level, catchers can get a courtesy runner to move the game along. Another interesting rule that was put into place and approved. More and more schools are getting access to all turf fields, which, there's nobody a bigger fan of turf fields than Christian Smith, who loves them. So more and more varsity programs are putting them in, which is great from the standpoint of it's hard to damage a turf field, so we're seeing more of our club teams getting permission to use the varsity fields because they're turf. However, a lot of turf fields have some stipulations regarding the use of seeds, chewing gum, and metal cleats. So one of the things we've had some complaints about are teams traveling to another school, getting there, finding out they have a turf field that they're not allowed to wear metal cleats on, and they're about to take the field for a game, and now half their team doesn't have appropriate footwear to play for the game. So now there's a rule in place where if you're the home team and you're using a turf field that has footwear limitations to it, you have 72 hours prior to the first game to notify your opponent of those footwear limitations. If you fail to do so, your team, as the home team, is required to wear, I believe the same term, turf shoes, not molded cleats, not metal cleats. Even if the other team has all appropriate footwear, if you didn't notify them that the turf field in question has footwear requirements, your team is not allowed to wear any sort of cleat on the field for that game. All right, next one. This, in my opinion, is a very big change to the Rules Committee that's been approved. As you probably heard me say, the Rules Committee is myself, a D1 elected rep, a D2 rep, and then 8 Division I regional directors. the Rules Committee voted to amend that to reduce the Rules Committee from 11 members down to 7, and those 7 members will now be myself, the Division One Rules Committee team rep that's elected, the D2 team rep that's elected, the heads of each Division One, Division Two, and Division Three operations. So this year it's Christian in D1, Eric in D2, Alex in D3, and then one Division One regional director that will be elected by his fellow regional directors to represent. The idea being, it spaces, for one, it consolidates the group that are voting on these rules down to a smaller number, but also it disperses the amount of votes that are D1 heavy or D2 heavy in that regard. So, there'll be two people in the committee directly representing Division Two. There'll be 3 people directly representing Division One, and 1 person directly representing Division Three, and then myself who represents them all. So we think that's a good change to the Rules Committee plan moving forward. On the Division Two side, a couple rules. If you're a Division Two team, pay attention. These rules don't go into effect right away, but they will be coming down the pipeline, so make note of it. Effective the 2018-19 season, so not this year but next year, it will be required that batters' helmets must match. It's not something we enforced at the D2 level in the past. We do at the D1 level. All players on the field must have matching batting helmets, just like they would headwear or game hats. At the D2 level, that requirement is going to come into place in 18-19. In the 19-20 season, at Division Two teams will be required to carry 2 sets of uniforms, a home and away jersey, contrasting colors. Again, something we've had at the D1 level for a number of years now, and we're giving you guys forewarning now that it's coming down, so you can prepare your budgets and prep for that for the future. Again, also in 2018-19, not this year but next year, in D2, similar to like we have in Division One, there'll be a minimum requirement for non-conference games played to be eligible for the postseason, and that will be a 2. A new rule that goes into place for this year for D2 is all teams are eligible to play fall ball. So throughout the entire D2 structure, the entire land of D2, fall ball games will be eligible to be counted in regular season play, non-conference games, conference games. Statistics will count and so forth. Another interesting move that was approved in Division 2 was the moving up the dates of D2 district playoffs. I guess we're going to soon stop calling them district playoffs, and we'll just call them D2 regional playoffs. But those are going to be moved up a week earlier than they have been in the past. And I believe that's it for the major rules changes that are going into effect for this year. Of course, all the rules changes are available on the slides. You'll see the new rule books coming out shortly from Christian. He'll get those updated out in the next week or so and get those out to everybody. But those are the highlights of everything that was discussed and really the major rules that were approved and changed. So appreciate your time, and I'll hand it back to Christian.
Appreciate it, Sandy. Thank you for going over those. Yeah, those are extremely important. Those are the rules that will be going into effect this upcoming season. And as he mentioned, we will have those rule books out hopefully early next week. So look out for those coming out soon. Going to get into our breakout sessions. We have 3 breakout sessions that we'll be going over. The first I'll be taking you through, it's team operations. The second breakout session will be tournaments and championships. That'll be presented by Eric, Alex, and myself. Actually, that should be Tracy and myself. And then session 3 will be sponsors and fundraising. Whole slew of people will be coming up here to present on their respective sponsors.